Hello everyone. Thanks for tuning in. This is a webinar on Lean Six Sigma organized by Knowledgehut and presented by myself, Tarak. I have done my Six Sigma Green Belt certification and I've also done a few Six Sigma Green Belt projects. I'm on LinkedIn with the same name. Do feel free to get in touch. So next 60 minutes you are going to spend with me getting to know Six Sigma, and here's our agenda for today. So to the right you can see the Six Sigma symbol. That's how it's depicted. So this presentation contains my findings, thoughts and my views, and these do not represent the thoughts and views of any other organization, past or present, where I have been working or where I currently work. So with that, let's get into some definitions. So first we start with lean. The sole aim of lean is to eliminate waste from a process. Waste could be anything: process steps, inefficient machines, or even people. Process steps may be changed, removed, or re-engineered. Machines may need to be repaired or even replaced, or replaced with more sophisticated machines. People may need to be reskilled through training or assigned to other departments where their skills are of greater use. In terms of a production process that's mainly in manufacturing, removal of waste means work gets done faster and produces a better quality output, adding more value to the customer, because the customer is only going to buy your product if it's of more value than a competitor's product. Six Sigma, on the other hand, is about reducing defects and process variation. Processes will always vary, but are they within control? That's the question to ask. A process that is varying too much will produce inconsistent products or output, which will not meet the customer's needs, or even the standards like ISO specifications. To reduce process variation and therefore the defective output, we need to understand the existing process with help from the process owner, collecting data, doing some analysis, and maybe come up with possible solutions to stop the excess variation. We implement the solution and monitor if it really works. It is quite possible that we may need to make multiple attempts and iterations to succeed to get to our final goal. At the end of each attempt, we make delta improvement. Sounds a bit like agile, doesn't it? Six Sigma also deals with situations that require a complete overhaul of the process and a new one to be put in place. For example, in cases of radical innovation, for example, all banks moving on to blockchain tech. Or at times, it is too costly to repair the existing process. New processes may be required to take care of mergers and acquisitions. For example, a new HR process post-merger of two companies. When we say enterprise, we mean the company as a whole, which is a collection of individuals, business processes, tools, methodologies, and so on. But looking at the customer side, does the customer care for all that? No. All that the customer cares about is the product or service that he is using, whether it be as basic as a daily need, like a mobile phone, a laptop, or even the car that he is driving, or even the salon where he is going to get a haircut. While Lean and Six Sigma focus on the internals and goes sort of bottom up, BPM looks top down, starting at the enterprise level and then seeking interdependency of the processes and finally zeroing in to the weak link. And that is where you apply Lean to reduce waste or Six Sigma methodology to reduce defects. Sometimes BPM software tools like TIBCO, Oracle, Nintex, etc. are confused with being BPM itself, but that is not the case. These are only a technology to do BPM better, faster, or however you want to put it. But then is it Lean Six Sigma or Lean or Six Sigma? Are they separate or are they together? If we look back over time, we see that Lean and Six Sigma have been evolving over a long period for more than 100 years. That's a lot of time for something to be around, isn't it? In this timeline that you see on the screen, the red boxes depict tracing the Lean evolution and the gray boxes are tracing the Six Sigma evolution. So Ford, as you can see in this diagram, Ford to the extreme left started with the assembly line manufacturing somewhere in early 1900s, and this created the foundation for Lean. Statistical process control practices evolved at Bell Laboratories. In the mid-20th century came mass production and quality control concepts. Shortly after came TQM, or Total Quality Management, molded by Joseph Juran for industry use. This fed into the Toyota production system, TPS, and we will talk about the TPS a little while later. Lean came into being in the 70s, 80s in the manufacturing world first. In the 80s, Six Sigma was introduced in Motorola by an engineer named Bill Smith. The high-level concept at that time was that if you get rid of variation, you can improve the customer experience and increase your overall savings. Six Sigma was championed at GE by Jack Welch. We shortly have a detailed case study on General Electric. Lean and Six Sigma coexisted for a while until in 2000, or I would say in about 2000, they merged with the good things of both. Lean Six Sigma was born. Right. So moving on, here's a block of wood that you can see has three specifications of 3 dimensions, and obviously which means that there are 3 defect opportunities per product. So we make distinction between terms defect, defective, and defect opportunities, and this is very key to understanding Six Sigma. Let us take a very simple example of the carpentry unit that's producing these blocks that you see in the picture. So as I said, it has got a length, width, and height, which are all specified by a customer. And so there are 3 opportunities per block or per product. A defect may be in the length, being outside of specifications, or width or height. You may have 1, 2, or 3 in a single block. If the carpentry unit is producing 1,000 blocks a day, then the defect opportunities per day are 3,000. For some reason, let us say, and that's why you see that red font over there, on a bad day, the lengths are all cut incorrectly. Width and height are okay, but the lengths are all wrong. So 1,000 out of 3,000 defect opportunities are realized. But all the 1,000 blocks are defective. So 100% defective. So now we take a look at a Sigma chart. This is a famous chart. So as you can see, being one Sigma company means that 690,000 out of 1,000,000 opportunities are out of specs. This means only 31% are accurate. Being Six Sigma means, that's at the bottom of that chart, out of 1,000,000 opportunities, only 3.4 are not in specifications. Taking the case of our wooden block, if this carpentry unit ends up producing 1,000,000 wooden blocks instead of 1,000, so obviously we have 3,000,000 defect opportunities. The number of dimensions allowed to go wrong is around 10, which is basically 3.4 into 3. Now if you concentrate back on the chart below, and if you look at the column that says comparison with earlier level, you will notice that as we improve from one level to another, the improvement is not linear. It becomes more and more steep and difficult. At 2 Sigma, you are expected to produce only half of the defects that you produce at 1 Sigma. At 3 Sigma, you are reducing by 80% of what defects you produce at 2 Sigma, and so on. So 80% and 90% and 96%, and then finally, it's actually more than 99%. Now let us get into a bit of statistics. Don't try to understand this one at one go, because it looks a little bit complex, and it is complex. See the green curve in the middle? That's a frequency diagram for process output, or also called the voice of a process. It is a standard normal curve. A standard normal curve is a statistical concept which has a mean or mu of 0 and a standard deviation or sigma of 1. The concept of standard normal curve is used widely in stats to solve problems in continuous distributions. Going into depth of a standard normal curve is out of scope for this webinar, so I will continue with the other things. So just understand that a standard normal curve extends to infinity in both directions in theory, so there will always be some area to the left and right of any vertical line. Now look at the extreme left and right, where you see the specification limits, the lower and the upper, the LSL, USL. In the real world, the specification limits are the voice of the customer or the voice of standards. It is specified by someone. In the diagram, LSL and USL are marked 6 standard deviations from the mean. Now read the green font, which says original, then 9.866 into 10 to the power minus 10. It means that there is some area to the left of the LSL and the right of the USL for the green curve, and that is represented by that area which is written in green font. Now if we theoretically shift the curve to the right and generate the red curve, or to the left and generate the blue curve to a distance of 1.5 sigma in either direction, we get the areas to the left and right, which is mentioned in the red font, that's for the red curve, and the blue font for the blue curve. And you can see that the blue font and the red font, so the blue font for the LSL is 3.398 into 10 to the power minus 6, which is nothing but 6 sigma specification, as we saw in our chart in the last slide. Which means that my process still maintains a 6 sigma standard even when the mean moves by 1.5 sigma to the left and the right. This is called normal process variation. So as I said, you can have a closer look at that, but I'm not going to spend too much time explaining this. This is all covered in our 6 sigma training. So for the moment, let's go back to our sigma chart. So now we will look at this chart with a different perspective. Can your business survive with 31% accuracy, where basically 69% is waste? Maybe not. Or at 2 sigma, which is 69% accurate, but 31% is waste. You may still say that's too much of defects. Or you may say, let us try to do that as a first target. You may say that let us be 2 sigma in a year from now, because we have 50% defects now, and reducing to 30% is still great. If we achieve that, we try for better the following year. Remember, it is always continuous improvement. Finally, ask yourself if you need it. Is 2 sigma, which is 93%, good enough for you? Do you really need to go up to 99.99966%? Are you manufacturing a water bottle or teacups? Or are you in the fashion industry? Or are you making parts for a spaceship? Or are you making medical equipment? Or are you talking of a hospital that's doing precision eye surgeries? So the question is, do you need it? I'll pause for a while here while you take a good look at the chart once again. Now, we have seen so far Lean Six Sigma as a metric, as a number. But, as I said some time back, it's also about a methodology. A methodology that we can use to improve our existing process or build a new one. The objective of Six Sigma is not about only the target, but also the structure and the rigor that we adopt to get there. A destination as well as a journey. There may be companies that produce worse than 3.4 defects per million, but still use Six Sigma rigor for their processes. For Six Sigma improvement projects, we follow the standard DMAIC cycle: define, measure, analyze, improve, control. This is pretty standard and will be covered at a high level slide or two later on. I said standard, but apparently there are some places where an extra I is used to make it DMAIIC, where the second I stands for implement. Also at Johnson & Johnson, they use the two I's, and the II stands for innovative improvement, which is a reminder to the people to think out of the box while improving. For making a new one, we use Design for Six Sigma, which is abbreviated as DFSS. And DFSS has a couple of options which are used. The first one being DMADV, which is also the most widely used, which is the define, measure, analyze, design, and verify. And the other one is IDOF, which stands for identify, design, optimize, and verify. Although I'll not be covering DFSS today except a case study, it is very important for process definition as it uses a structured methodology and data to establish a new process. DFSS can also be used to consolidate working practices and putting them under rigor by identifying steps, possible failure points, and most importantly, a owner for the process, the new process. In real life, during failure or causal analysis or post-mortem, people always say, hey, I did it as per the usual process. By process, they mean a habit or a practice, because there is no documented process. But more than the absence of documentation, it is the lack of a process owner, a person who eats, sleeps, lives the process, and accountable to top management for failures or success or even improvements. Even in automation, the process is owned by a process owner. You will notice that for DMADV and DMAIC, the first three phases are the same, that's DMA. Although they have the same name, note that activities are different as the background of each of them are different. Right, so with that, we go into details of the DMAIC process. Here you will see 5 phases. It looks complex, but let's go one by one. Here you will see 5 phases of it: the define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, with a list of activities at the top and the list of tools at the bottom. If you take a closer look at the activities, a lot of them look like project management activities, isn't it? For example, create communication plan, launch team, etc., which are mainly part of the define phase. The first step is to review the approved project charter under define, and the last step under control is the handoff to the process owner. We have around 30 activities in between across the 5 phases. Note that each phase is closed with a complete gate, complete define gate, complete measure gate, and so on, which is marked in red font. Then there are tools and techniques associated with these activities that you see at the bottom under tools. If you are already a project manager or you are into statistics or analytics, some of these tools will look pretty familiar to you. So note that there is a full-fledged training available for learning whatever you see on this slide. For some of the tools, we also have sophisticated softwares which are available in the market. Finally, that does look like a lot of hard work, isn't it? But fortunately for us, to do the hard work, we have analytics to our rescue. Now, analytics is a big buzzword. Analytics, measurement, and analysis are 2 important steps in the Six Sigma project. Six Sigma is data-driven, therefore ensuring that all that you do is based on reality. But data is data. Without analysis, slicing, dicing, which is also called data wrangling, there is no use of data. You do this and then you draw conclusions. Data collection takes time, efforts, and also costs a lot of money, especially if you are going to buy it, for example, from another company. They say that data is the new oil. With data collection tools in place, people are able to collect lots of data on the go. For example, in manufacturing, sensors feed data into process historians. On the web, clicks, visits, and even the user journey is collected via cookies and other browser tools. Businesses are global, with products being exported to all over the world or being manufactured in plants across the world. Suppliers are also diverse in terms of location, their size, the quality of their products, and the cost of the supplied parts. Marketing is omni-channel, through web, through mobile apps, through brick and mortar retail, business to business, and telephone marketing. A meaningful decision can only be made if we have considered all of these channels and together. This in turn also means that I need to have authentic data to analyze for all of that. And what about the competitors? Technology, in the form of computing power, internet reach, speeds, and social media have enabled people with limited resources to make a product or offer a service. As Jeff Bezos of Amazon rightly said to big corporations, "Your profit is my opportunity." So every business needs to understand what their competitors are doing. Comparison, benchmarking are very essential. All such necessities has given birth to sophisticated data analytics tools and software packages that we can aptly leverage and analyze huge amounts of data. We can create models once and reuse them again and again for the ever-changing data and make solid decisions quickly. Data is always in motion, all the while due to changing political, social, economic, or even technology factors. And business needs to continuously improve to stay ahead. Six Sigma methodologies can bring about improvement coupled with sophisticated analytics tools of today and faster decision making can provide the perfect framework for what we call continuous improvement. Now coming to the people that do the Six Sigma projects. These are the roles that make Six Sigma happen in the red rectangle. So this is the hierarchy. If you are planning to start a career in Six Sigma, it's recommended that you start at the bottom with the yellow belt. Lean Six Sigma yellow belt is a professional who is well versed in foundational elements of Lean Six Sigma and generally serves as a team member or part of a more complex improvement projects, which are led by a certified green belt or a black belt. Now coming to the green belts, they are the engines of Six Sigma projects. They define project scope, lead the project team, call for help when needed, they manage communication, and they ensure that the results are sustained. Their goal is to translate the value of Six Sigma to the specific work environment and problems. The next level going upwards is the black belt or BBs, are full-time, part-time project leaders and mentors. They are responsible for executing specific projects and ensuring that the results are captured. The changes are owned by the champions or sponsors. They also lead Six Sigma knowledge transfer, training, and so on. MBBs, the master black belts, are responsible for translating the high-level business goals into Six Sigma strategy for the division and supporting tactics. MBBs are responsible for success of Six Sigma in their divisions, so they have accountability. They coordinate and lead activities across cross-division value streams, for example, customer services, cycle times, and so on. Project champions, so that's at the top. That's the guy with the specs. So they are the sponsors of the Six Sigma project, so they own the budget for doing the project. They are also the business managers and own one or more process or value streams that is undergoing the Six Sigma improvement. So they are basically the fulcrum as the process owners. Daily business operations report into them. Note the arrow coming in from the process owner. So, and lastly, at the bottom, the process owner is the main person, who owns the process, from whom you have taken the data and is your key stakeholder. Is also the recipient of the direct benefits of the improvement. Obtaining your Six Sigma certification makes you stand out from the crowd when you are applying for a new job or trying to get a promotion with your current employer. Six Sigma expertise is in high demand, and if you have attended a training and possess a certification, it is instantly recognized that you are a knowledgeable person in terms of being able to reduce costs or increase revenue or improve quality and improve the process. Now, which company does not want to reduce the costs or increase the revenue or even improve quality? By the way, there's a nice blog on Knowledgehut website that I strongly recommend you read, and at the bottom you can see how to find that out. Right, so now let's get into some case studies. The obvious, General Electric. So GE's journey with Six Sigma started in '95 when CEO Jack Welch made it a corporate goal to be a Six Sigma company by year 2000. Most of its Six Sigma concepts were practices from pioneers such as Motorola. They started with training the workforce for problem analysis based on data. GE required all employees to undertake a 13-day, that's 100-hour training program in Six Sigma methodologies and complete a Six Sigma project. GE hired specialist full-time master black belts for implementing Six Sigma. These guys were in charge for the process change at GE. Each MBB or master black belt trained and mentored key process owners, that is GE employees, for the black belt level. Employees selected for black belt underwent 4-month training and applied Six Sigma tools at work under the guidance of the MBB. These black belts, after their training and mentoring phase, went on to form Six Sigma projects throughout GE. The top management of GE followed a very hands-on approach. They participated in Six Sigma training sessions. They answered questions for employees during the training. They made surprise visits to Six Sigma review sessions. They visited the shop floor to see how well Six Sigma has been implemented at the point of work. Finally, they of course reviewed weekly and monthly status reports with the MBBs. GE went to the extent of linking promotion and bonus to quality improvement. 40% of each top management bonus dependent on successful implementation of Six Sigma. And being a green belt became the minimum requirement to even ask for a promotion. Their focus was on the bottom line. This was achieved through cost cutting to survive competition and also through defect removal, improving productivity of men and the machines, and by achieving product quality. They understood that if inputs that were sourced from a variety of suppliers were not great, that's the input itself is not great, GE's output could not be Six Sigma. So they invested in bringing their suppliers also to Six Sigma. They made Six Sigma a way of life at work. They started ranking projects and aligning them to business goals through Six Sigma tools. And at the bottom in the green bold font, you can see what that resulted in terms of benefits. Moving on to our next case study on Toyota. So Toyota has their TPS, or the Toyota Production System, which is used even to this day. The principal focus is to remove waste of overproduction, which is basically to manufacture an item before it is actually required. Or the second waste is waiting, which is in the manufacturing world, basically when goods are not moving or not being processed. It is called waiting. And a lot of a product's lead time is attributed to waiting. Waiting happens because maybe material flow is poor, maybe production runs are too long, or the distances between 2 points are too great. If you link the processes together so that one feeds directly into the another, you save a lot of waiting. Transporting is about, the third one, transporting is about moving the product between two processes. It requires time to move and of course costs money. Transportation of a part doesn't add value. In fact, if there are transit damages, you actually spend more. Inappropriate processing. At times, organizations use expensive, high-precision equipment where simpler tools are sufficient. Toyota is famous for its use of low-cost automation. Unnecessary inventory increases lead times, consumes productive floor space, delays the identification of problems, and of course obstructs communication. and of course increases your warehousing and storing costs. Services cannot be stored, but you may consider capacity planning of resources to optimize the balance between demand and supply. The unnecessary excess motion waste is related to ergonomics and is a part of industrial engineering. This may be in the form of moving the product from one area to another, and if you are talking of machines, this may also be consuming more electricity or fuel. Also, health and safety considerations are associated. The TPS reduces waste by focusing on reducing difficult jobs. And finally, defects. Rework or scrap have a direct impact to the bottom line and can result in a tremendous cost to the organization. Overall, Toyota understood that customers will pay for value-added work, but they will never pay for waste. So they focused on low inventory levels. They used low-cost technology where too much was not sophistication was not required. And finally, a strong focus on following the process, constant improvement, doing root cause for all problems, and having respect for the workers on the floor. And that is how they capitalized on employees' creativity, and that is why they constantly improved. Toyota has extended its lean manufacturing practices into agriculture in Japan. Moving on, we come to retail coffee chain, Starbucks. So Starbucks entered a very challenging period in its history. Sales had slowed down, customer visits had declined, stock was going down. Through Six Sigma, the management wanted to give their store partners a better training and tools and introduce new products in the market, whether it was the coffee or things like the Starbucks card. They also introduced new concepts in store design and many other enhancements to what they called the Starbucks experience. The other goal was to rekindle the emotional attachment with their customers by restoring the connection the customers had with the barista or the coffee, the Starbucks brand, and the stores. In an overall level, the objective was twofold. One was realignment of the existing organization, and of course, realignment of the management of the organization in preparing for the future. By revamping the support and planning functions, store operations, and even the back-end IT systems. At every level, the focus was on customer experience. The other thing that also came out of this was to expand the markets beyond the US, where there was a lot of potential and was still untapped in that period around 2008. Continuing with our variety of Six Sigma case studies, we moved to a hospital. So LDS Hospital in Utah recognized a problem in the treatment of painful conditions in the emergency department. There had been complaints from patients, so the staff began a pain management initiative to remedy this problem. It involved a chart audit, formation of a work team, a root cause analysis, developing a new process, and a second audit. The work team used the DMAT-V roadmap to resolve the pain issue. In Define, they identified that the problem was increasing patient dissatisfaction regarding pain management. In the measure phase, they had this screening tool to audit the medical charts and finding out what was the real scenario which was happening there, which you can see in that table if you see the before column. In Analyze, a work team was formed to address the problem. The team noted that many processes had to occur in the emergency before a patient could receive the treatment. Though necessary, these processes had no intrinsic value to the patient. That is, for the patient, they were waste. In the devise phase, the physicians and nurses were given feedback regarding an initial pain management audit, and an educational initiative regarding pain management techniques was begun. Ways to decrease the time to pain control were sought. An attitude of intolerance for untreated pain was fostered. So that's a culture change. And lastly, in the Verify, a repeat audit of pain management revealed tangible improvements, which you can see in the table in before and after. Time to pain management went down from 67 minutes to 46 minutes, and untreated pain dropped from 39 to 11%. Also, the overall patient satisfaction scores had improved. Then moving on to a little bit more familiar example, which is on our BPO. So successful Six Sigma initiatives have been carried out in a lot of banking BPOs. You see some names there, and also in some call centers. Also, you can see the names there. So what are the use cases that the BPOs you do for Six Sigma? So for example, reducing the number of errors, reducing the FTEs or the number of people deployed, transitioning supporting staff, reducing rework, improvement on productivity, improvement of skills, achieving of some utilization target, meet some internal quality targets, and finally, enhanced revenue generating opportunities by proper capacity management. It is interesting that Wipro BPO's Six Sigma Finance and Accounting project helped one of their clients reduce unapplied cash, which was a key business metric for the client, which in turn helped generate an accurate receivables report. This had a positive impact on external collections and the cash flow of the customer organization. Wipro BPO won an award from the American Society of Quality in 2013 for this project. And finally, the Mumbai Dabbawala. So the lunchbox carriers of Mumbai are said to make less than 300 mistakes a year. So if you see those numbers, so 130,000 lunchboxes daily, which means 260,000 transactions, which translates to 80 million transactions a year, and making less than 300 mistakes actually means that they achieve Six Sigma. But they are mostly illiterate, less than 8 standard. So do you think they understand Six Sigma? Their business runs on a few pillars. First being the organization, which is their chain mechanism which is developed over time. Then they have some process of a color coding system. Worker empowerment, set their own prices and define their own customers. And the culture, they are mostly from the same social status and hail from the same village and area. So if you thought that was all, that do Six Sigma or are Six Sigma, please have a look at this slide and I'll take a pause. So this list is not exhaustive and I haven't verified the list either, but as you can see, I have taken this from Wikipedia and there are more. I couldn't fit all of them over here. Some of them are very interesting, like for example, the United States Army. And we have hotels, resorts, insurance companies, logistics companies, aircraft companies, and all of banking. So everyone is there. So moving on to one more picture. Here you see a picture of some lions squatting on the road and blocking your way. This is a real picture taken at Kruger National Park in South Africa. And it's only coincidental that there are 6 lion cubs in the picture and we are talking Six Sigma. It's just coincidental. So what are we talking about here? So we are talking of impediments. Some people say Lean Six Sigma is a fad or a fiction. But then what about these case studies that we have been going through? Lean Six Sigma is one thing that has delivered savings and profits like no other. Lean Six Sigma differs from other continuous improvement programs in 3 important ways: sharp customer focus, extensive use of data and analytics, and return on investment orientation, which is basically the language of management. People also say, we don't have the time, we don't have the money. Think of the returns. You remember the slide where I asked you, do you need it? If your reason is compelling, please take Lean Six Sigma with both hands and start your journey. The third one, of course, is people say, we are a small company, see? We have only X employees and Y turnover. Okay, good point. But Lean Six Sigma is all about solving problems. You may be a small company, but what about your problems? Are your problems also small? Haven't you ever felt that you just don't know why it happens? Remember our wooden block example. And lastly, number 4, I don't know Six Sigma. I don't know Lean. It looks risky. Thank you. That's probably the best reason that you may have. And I hope that this webinar helps you understand a bit about it. And then there are trainings. Remember our case study for GE. The initial focus was on training the staff, training the vendors. And risk-taking? Risk-taking is key to stay on top of the game, isn't it? But now knowing that you need to do something different, why Six Sigma? And why not anything else? Six Sigma because, firstly, it is customer focused and talks only of customer needs, what the customer is willing to pay for. On the other hand, it also focuses on reducing inventory cost, focuses on the bottom line, so that's business driven. It's not just theory. Products, services, and processes. Six Sigma finds universal applicability across all of these, whether it be improving product quality, service quality, or even removing process variation. It is universal. Thirdly, it is data-driven, and we have a host of tools and techniques. The measure phase lays emphasis on data collection, collecting data. The analyze phase lays emphasis on processing that data. So the entire improvement initiative is based on realistic premise. It is a metric and it is a philosophy. Remember the case of the tiffin box carriers? They're illiterate. They don't even know that they are Six Sigma and they don't understand what is a process. On the other hand, Six Sigma projects can be universally used to improve whether we want to achieve 3.4 defects per million or not. It is a metric as well as a philosophy. Six Sigma is goal-focused in terms of numbers. It may not be possible to attain the goal in one go. Multiple iterations may be necessary. Once the goal is achieved, we seek if it can be improved further. Finally, we have been talking of Lean Six Sigma projects. We have been saying projects all over. We have seen the hierarchy of yellow, green, black, and master black belts. Six Sigma initiatives can be run as projects and require sponsorship, planning, monitoring, and tracking, just like any other project, via our DMAC and DMAT-V methodology. So, that was my take on Six Sigma. What's yours? Thanks for listening in.